Imagine an insect that can build an entire nest using living leaves, and then stitch those leaves together with silk produced by its own larvae. No blueprint, no tools, and no leader giving orders. Yet hundreds of ants can work together to create a complex home high above the ground. These are weaver ants. Weaver ants are arboreal insects, which means they spend most of their lives living and building nests in trees. Unlike many other ants, they don't build their nests from dirt, twigs, or fallen leaves. Instead, they use fresh green leaves that are still attached to the branches, and their choice of leaves is surprisingly precise. Green leaves are flexible enough to bend, but strong enough to support the structure of the nest and the colony living inside it. That's why weaver ants often choose young or partially grown leaves. Once the ants find the right location, construction begins. Worker ants move toward the edges of the leaves and start pulling them toward one another. When two or more leaves are close enough, the ants bend them until their edges meet. But a single ant isn't strong enough to do this alone. So dozens, sometimes hundreds of ants connect their bodies using their legs and powerful jaws. Together, they form a living chain. By working as a group, they can pull and bend leaves that would be impossible for one ant to move on its own. But bringing the leaves together is only the beginning. The most remarkable part comes next. The ants actually use their own larvae to stitch the leaves together. Adult workers carry larvae that have not yet undergone metamorphosis toward the edges of the leaves. The larvae are then moved across the surfaces that need to be connected. As they move, the larvae release a silk-like substance. This protein-rich material acts like a natural thread, helping bind the leaves together. The worker ants carefully move the larva back and forth, almost like a living sewing machine. A single larva can be used several times before it runs out of silk. When that happens, the workers simply bring another larva and continue the process. Little by little, the gaps between the leaves disappear. The result is a strong, enclosed structure made almost entirely from living leaves and larval silk. Once the main structure is complete, other ants inspect the connections. If they find a weak spot, they reinforce it with additional silk. In just several hours, or sometimes within a day, a large nest can be completed. Inside, the colony has different spaces for eggs, larvae, food, the queen, and resting workers. But weaver ants don't always stop after building one nest. A large colony can build dozens of nests across different branches of a tree, and sometimes even across neighboring trees. Each nest works almost like a different section of a larger city. Some areas are used for defense, others are used for food, raising young, or resting. And if one nest is damaged by heavy rain, strong winds, or predators, the colony can move its members and resources to another nest. They can even build a replacement nest in a relatively short amount of time. In a way, their nests are living structures. The leaves are still alive when the nests are built. But eventually, those leaves age, weaken, and fall. When that happens, the ants abandon the old nest and construct a new one. They are constantly adapting their homes to keep the colony alive. But building nests is only one part of the weaver ant's remarkable life. Inside the colony is a highly organized social system. At first glance, hundreds or thousands of ants moving in every direction might look like chaos. But there is actually a clear division of labor. The colony has three main castes: the queen, the workers, and the soldiers. The queen is the reproductive center of the colony. She is much larger than the workers, especially around her abdomen, which is specialized for producing eggs. A queen can live for several years and produce large numbers of eggs throughout her life. She doesn't search for food, she doesn't build the nest, and she doesn't defend the territory herself. Instead, her main role is reproduction. Because the future of the colony depends on her, the workers protect and care for her. Then there are the workers. They are the backbone of the colony. Workers search for food, build and repair nests, care for eggs and larvae, clean the nest, and help take care of the queen. Even though many workers look similar, they can perform different tasks. Some specialize in finding food. Others spend more time building and expanding the nest, and some remain inside the nest to care for the eggs and larvae. Then there are the soldiers. They are the colony's frontline defenders. Soldiers are generally larger than workers and have powerful jaws. They often guard nest entrances and strategic locations along the tree. When a threat appears, they can react within seconds. Another insect, movement near the nest, or even vibrations traveling through a branch can trigger a defensive response. The soldiers quickly gather and prepare to attack. Their main weapon is their powerful mandibles. They use them to bite enemies, hold leaves during construction, and capture or drag prey. In certain situations, weaver ants can also attack rival colonies or defend their territory against predators. Their attacks can be highly coordinated. Once they bite, some ants may hold on tightly instead of immediately letting go. They are willing to continue defending the colony even when the situation becomes dangerous. For them, protecting the colony comes first. But how do thousands of ants know what to do? They don't have a commander. They don't use spoken language. Instead, they rely heavily on chemical signals called pheromones. Pheromones are chemical substances released by ants and detected by other ants through their sensitive antennae. Different pheromones can carry different messages. One of the most important is the trail pheromone. When an ant discovers a food source, it can leave a chemical trail on the way back to the nest. Other ants detect the trail and follow it. As more ants travel along the same route, the trail becomes stronger. Soon, large numbers of workers can be moving along the same path, carrying food back to the colony. Another important signal is the alarm pheromone. When an ant is attacked or senses danger, it can release an alarm signal. Other ants detect it and quickly become alert, moving toward the source of the threat. There are also aggregation pheromones. These help bring ants together in one location, such as when the colony is building a new nest. Then there are sexual pheromones, which play a role during the mating period. And finally, there are colony recognition chemicals. Every colony has its own distinctive chemical signature. This helps ants recognize members of their own colony and identify outsiders. If an unfamiliar ant enters the nest without the correct chemical signature, it may immediately be attacked. But pheromones aren't the only way weaver ants communicate. They also use vibrations and physical contact. Some of these vibrations are produced by rubbing parts of their bodies together. Other ants can detect the vibrations through the branches and leaves beneath them. They can also communicate through physical contact, using their antennae and touching one another. All of this happens without a central command, and that is what makes their society so fascinating. A colony can appear to operate like a single organism, even though every ant is acting individually. Scientists call this kind of phenomenon emergent behavior. Complex patterns can emerge from the interactions of many individuals without a central leader controlling the entire system. This behavior has attracted attention from researchers in artificial intelligence and swarm robotics. Scientists have studied how ants find efficient routes, share tasks, respond to threats, and organize large groups. Some of these principles have even inspired systems used in logistics and computer networks, including methods based on pheromone-like trails for finding efficient routes. But weaver ants aren't just fascinating because of the way they build and communicate. They also play an important role in tropical ecosystems. Weaver ants are active predators. They can prey on caterpillars, small crickets, aphids, young grasshoppers, and other insects found around the trees where they live. When an unwanted insect appears, the ants can quickly move toward it and attack as a group. This behavior can help protect the leaves around their nests. Because of this, weaver ants can act as natural biological control agents. They help reduce populations of insects that can damage plants without relying entirely on chemical pesticides. But their relationships with other insects aren't always based on hunting. They can also form mutualistic relationships with insects such as aphids and other honeydew-producing insects. These insects produce a sweet liquid known as honeydew. The ants protect them from certain predators. In return, the ants receive honeydew as a source of food. It's another example of how different species can depend on one another within the same ecosystem. Weaver ants are also part of the food chain themselves. They prey on other insects, but they can also become food for other animals. This makes them an important link between different levels of the ecosystem. So, even though a weaver ant is tiny, its role can extend far beyond the branch where it lives. A single ant may look insignificant, but a colony tells a very different story. They build nests from living leaves. They stitch those leaves together using silk produced by their own larvae. They divide tasks among thousands of individuals. They communicate through chemical signals, vibrations, and physical contact. They defend their territory together, and they help shape the ecosystem around them. There is no single ant controlling the entire colony, no commander giving orders. Yet thousands of individuals can work together with remarkable coordination. And perhaps that is the most impressive thing about weaver ants. It's not what one ant can accomplish on its own. It's what an entire colony can achieve when every individual plays its part.